everybody.
Good morning.
So I'd like to present my writings on Muslim-Christian relations in Indonesia. As you know that Indonesia has the largest Muslim community, although it is not a Muslim country. So again, I'd like to state my standpoint before I continue my paper. So I believe that all religions is good. All religions are good. So religion states good things, and religion can be used to do good things also. But some people use that one for misuse that one for war, for hatred, and so on. So if you follow my presentation later, you will see that I'm on the sides of all religions. So although I'm a Catholic priest, but I believe that all religions, including Muslims, like I'm going to talk about, is also a good religion. Okay, let me start with the introduction. Indonesia is not a Muslim nation, though it has the largest Muslim community in the world. The founders of the nation refused to establish Indonesia as an Islamic state or based on Islamic Sharia. Although in the preparation of the independence, there was a strong push to incorporate a particular clause regarding Sharia into the constitutions, especially in the national ideology, it was ultimately rejected in the name of the national unity. Okay. Most Muslims in Indonesia belong to Sunni Islam. There is a very small number of Muslims belongs to Shiite and Ahmadi or other Islamic groups. Muslim is the majority in most parts of the country, with notable exception of the province of Bali, which most of them are Hindus, which is and the provinces of Papua, West Papua, East Nusa Tenggara, and North Sulawesi, which are predominantly Christians. So many people think the relationship between Muslims and Christians in Indonesia is like this, but actually it is not. This is one case. Yeah. In 2016, when they protested, some Muslims group protested a Christian governor in Jakarta. This picture is taken from that one. Mostly the relationship is like this. So you can see Muslim women and a sister, a Christian woman. In ancient times, most people who live in what is now called Indonesia most likely practiced some forms of animism. So something like this in the past. We still have some people that worship. Buddhism and Hinduism arrived in the third century and 4th century. Presumably as traders from India and other places arrived on Indonesia islands and brought their religion with them. Buddhism was introduced to Java by the 5th century and established in Sumatra on the 7th century. In Indonesia, the two religions have often been interwoven with each other and with traditional Javanese beliefs. Hindu statues sometimes have Buddhist symbols, and Buddhist temples often have depiction of Hindu gods. So this is one of the Hindu temple called Prambanan in Central Java, old one, and this one Borobudur, Buddhist temple. Islam was well established by the 12th century and may have arrived as early as the 9th century. By the 13th century, it was well entrenched. Marco Polo visited the northern Sumatra town of Perlak in 1292 and noted that the people there were Muslims. The earliest Muslim inscriptions found in Java dated to the 11th century. It is not clear whether Arabs, Persian, Indians, or even Chinese were the main disseminators of Islam in Indonesia. This is an old mosque, so like Javanese temple. And this is Catholic church, looks like also Javanese temple. And this one is a Chinese temple. So it was a mosque actually when it was founded in the 13th century. In the 16th century, the Portuguese introduced Catholicism to what is now Indonesia. In the 7th century, the Dutch introduced Protestantism. Although some local people who worked with Europeans in the colonial administration converted to the religion, Christianity did not make much headway with the local population, except a few areas like East Timor and the Spice Islands, Flores. But religion in Indonesia is best viewed as a series of amalgamations rather than a process of successions. Islam has been infused with Buddhism and Hinduism that preceded it, and Buddhism and Hinduism in turn have been infused with the folk religions that preceded them. Many Indonesian pilgrims visit sites with connection to the Muslim saints and associate with Buddhism, Hinduism, and animism, even though Islam generally discourages such practices. So Islam and Christianity in Indonesia are also influenced by the Hinduism and Buddhism. So for my dissertation with Father Leo, I wrote about the hybrid religions, because actually most people in Indonesia believe in hybrid religion. So they combine Hinduism, Buddhism, traditional beliefs with their religion, Christianity or Islam. Religion in Indonesian political system. Religion in Indonesia is a complex and volatile issue, not easily analyzed in terms of socio-religious issue. Pancasila, as a pillar of Indonesian identity, which is included in the country's constitutions since the day after its independence on August 18, 1945. Pancasila, Panca means 5, while Sila means principles, consists of 5 principles. And the first principle is belief in one only God. So these are the principles. The first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, and the fifth one. This one is democracy, belief in the one and the only God. This is national unity. This is social justice. This is internationality, actually. And national motto, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, like this one, means unity in diversity. In the 1945 Constitution of the Republic of Indonesia, Chapter 11, Article 29, it says, the state shall be based upon the belief in the one and only God. So this becomes complicated because Buddhism, they do not believe in God. Hinduism, they are polytheistic. And then also some local beliefs, some local religions in Indonesia, they focus more on the relationship between oneself with the cosmos. And then Article number 2, the state guarantees all persons the freedom of worship, each according to his or her own religion or belief. Reading the article, we can conclude that the state guarantees the freedom of religion in Indonesia. The state provides protections for citizens for the right to adopt, renounce, or change religion, protection of place of worship, and freedom for coercion, and protection against discrimination. However, domestic law defines religion very narrowly. Though the state guaranteed tolerance, but popular violence between Muslims and minorities, especially Christians in Java, Sulawesi, Kalimantan, Ambon, and Halmahera, made those guarantees difficult to honor. In some cases, the police and army were on different sides of classes defined in religious terms. In some cases, not all cases. Though there is no official state religion, but Indonesia currently recognizes 6 religions as official religions: Islam, Protestantism, Catholicism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Confucianism. These religions are regulated and controlled by the Ministry of Religion and the Department of Religious Affairs. Each religion also has official institutions which act as the ultimate religious authority for its respective religion. The institutional framework of the recognized religious practice beyond those recognized is thus the legitimized. Indonesian citizens are required to choose one of the 6 official religions. Polytheism and atheism are illegal as they contradict the monotheism prescribed by the Panchasila. So if you learn about Hinduism in Indonesia, it's very different from Hinduism in India, because in Indonesia, Hinduism believes in one and only God, and also for Buddhism and Confucianism. Otherwise, they may not exist in Indonesia, because they believe that the first principle of Pancasila is belief in the one and only God. This is quite interesting why Protestantism and Catholicism are regarded as different religions, because actually they belong to the Christianity according to the world religion. Before the Independence Day, our first president was very close to the Catholic priest, because when he was exiled to Nusa Tenggara Timur, so he made friends with the priest there, and then the first country actually who recognized Indonesian independence is Vatican. That's why the first president granted Catholicism as a different religion from a legal religion, different from the Christianity, Protestantism. Quite interesting. So they have different offices, although they work together sometimes in the church council, but they have different office. They have different legal office. This is the number of the.
Do you have the figures for kepercayaan?
No, I have, unfortunately, I don't.
Because that's recognized, isn't it?
It's recognized, but not as official religion. So the kepercayaan, or the beliefs we call it, it's part of the Ministry of Education and Culture, not Ministry of Religion. Yeah. Why kepercayaan? We call it kepercayaan, or local religions are not considered as a religion because they cannot fulfill the requirement that I think I have the. So, according to be called as a religion in Indonesia, you need the religion should have a system. First, it has a holy script, and then it has prophet. It has it is international, not local. It has law, and the last one, there are 5 requirements. The last one, prophet. And it has institutions. So if you see Hinduism, Buddhism, and Confucianism, they should build the system. They should fulfill the requirements. That's why they have to develop the religion. They create the religion that can fulfill the requirements of a religion in Indonesia. And kepercayaan or local beliefs cannot do that. That's why they are not considered as religion. So if you believe on local religion, you should put Islam or Christianity or Catholicism in the ID card, because it is a must for Indonesian to put their religion in the ID card. Mm-hmm. In 1965, the government, through its 3 ministries, Ministry of National Affairs, Ministry of Religion, and Ministry of Law, produced a joint decree regarding the construction of houses of worship. This decree became the base justification for violent acts committed by the Muslim majority on Christian houses of worship, sometimes authorized, sometimes not. This decree was then replaced by Joint Decree 2006, which requires permission from 60 residents from a different faith to approve any building proposal for a place of worship. This law still allows discrimination. The possibility of people to build their place of worship relies on whether they are allies in the area from different religions. So if you want to build a place of worship, you should get at least 60 signatures from if it is for Christian, from non-Christians, people who live around the area, something like that. Religion in Indonesian socio-religious life. Interreligious marriage is a sensitive issue in Indonesia. Law number 1, 1974, which ruling out interreligious marriage, states a marriage is only legal when it is conducted according to one religion. So before you have official marriage, you should do your marriage in the church or in the mosque or in the temple. There has been a lot of discussion. Some people agree with that law, but some scholars claim that the country should not forbid interreligious marriage. For them, forbidding interreligious marriage is against human rights. But people are very tricky. So if they want to have an interreligious marriage, so in the morning sometimes they have marriage in the church, and in the evening in the mosque. Yeah, so they just need the paper from the church or from the mosque to bring it to the office of marriage of the governor, and then they get the legal later, the legal document.
We have 2 parties rather than one.
Yeah. Despite the Indonesian government's regulation, there are a lot of Indonesian spouses with different religious traditions get married. To legalize their marriage, they play a trick. Many couples get married under one religion, but then practice their respective faiths. Some others who get married under both religions so that they do it twice. The first is under the bride's religion, and second is under the groom's religion. Those who have more financial support go abroad either to Australia or Singapore to wed and then register their marriage in Indonesian civil courts. So that's what they do. In Indonesia, religious conversion is not illegal. Though it doesn't happen in the whole area of Indonesia, people may convert from one religion to another, and even after some years, they convert again to their former religion. It only becomes an issue, especially in Indonesia, virtual world, if it is done by public figures. Conversion also sometimes happens among spouses with interreligious marriage. After several years of marriage, one of the spouse converts so that both of them have the same religion. There are many reasons behind this big decision. Pressure could be one of the reasons, but it is not the only one and the biggest one. There are also voluntary conversions, in which someone decides to convert after he or she encounters and learns his or her spouse's religion, or after both of them decide that it is better to raise their children in one religion, either the husband's or the wife's religion. See, they are twins.
Oh.
They're twins. One is a sister and one is a Muslim. Since the Indonesian calendar has religious holidays, 6 days to celebrate Islamic festivals, and then 4 days to celebrate Christian festivals, 1 day to celebrate Buddhist festivals, 1 day to celebrate Hindu festivals, and 1 day to celebrate Confucian festival. And in Indonesia, Chinese New Year is considered as the birth of Confucius. Although actually it's a spring festival, right? But in Indonesia, it is considered as the birth of the prophet of Confucius, the prophet Confucius. Every year, the government also declares nationwide the common leave day to give more time to people to celebrate the festival, but usually only around Christmas and Idul Fitri. Since 1970, to protect the people from the influence of communism, the Indonesian government included religion subject in the national curriculum. It is a compulsory subject for students of any level of education, starting from elementary school to college and university. Religion is taught to students according to their own faith, meaning that Muslim students are instructed in Islam, while Christian students study Christianity in separate classes. The classes are offered for the 6 official religions. Though due to difficulties in finding religion teacher, the minorities have to go to their worship place to get religion education. This is not without problems. since this is like uniformizing certain religions which have many branches, schools, and sects. Like in Islam, there are some schools, they have to learn one school only, Sunni, in the school. Protestantism and also has also some branches. What is it? The Pentecostal and others, but they have to learn one Christianity only. Though having a religion, and also Buddhism and Hinduism, because they have also some branches. Though having religion is a must for all Indonesian, even someone's religion has to be clearly stated in her or his national ID card. Not all Indonesians practice their religions. So although everybody should put their religion in their ID card, but not all of them practice the religion. There are a lot of people who are called ID card Muslims or Christians. So they proclaim that they have religions, but actually they do not practice religion at all. And even I've got some Jews friends, so sometimes they put Islam in their ID card, sometimes they put Christianity. Depends where he lives. When he moved to Manado, where there are a lot of Christians there, so he put Christianity. But when he moved to Java, where a lot of Muslims there, he put Islam there. In big cities, this phenomenon is accepted freely and openly, while in rural areas, they usually only participate in big festivals and do not observe it daily. Interreligious conflicts in Indonesia on an overview. After Suharto's fall in 1998, the successive presidents, especially the former president and Nahdlatul Ulama leader Abdurrahman Wahid, or he is known by Gus Dur, encouraged tolerant and moderate forms of Islam. However, during the presidency of Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, 2004-2014, more radical currents of Islam grew in influence. Under Susilo, the authority of the Indonesian Ulama Council was enhanced. The council makes its decisions independently. Its fatwas are not legally binding, and they do not necessarily reflect government policy, although the government appoints its member and funds it. This creates widespread confusion about its authority, especially since MUI, or this body, has become more extreme and has sought to expand its powers, as evidenced by the wider range of subjects upon which it issues fatwa. MUI issued fatwas prohibiting interfaith marriage, interfaith prayer, interfaith inheritance, religious pluralism, liberalism, and secularism. The MUI also defined what constitutes proper Islam and issued a specially anti-Ahmadi, anti-Gavatar Islam decree, and played its imbalanced role in the Sunni-Shiite conflict and in the case of Ahok, a non-Muslim governor of Jakarta. President Jokowi, in office since 2014, has been critical of more restrictive forms of Islam, stressed religious toleration, and also emphasized that the body doesn't make government policy. Islamic Defender Front. These are the interreligious conflicts that happened in the last 25 years. In East Java, Sambas, Poso, Sampit is in Borneo, Kalimantan, North Maluku, Lampung, Papua, Aceh, almost all over Indonesia. And Surabaya with the bombing. Islamic Defender Front is a nation organization whose goal is the implementation of Sharia in Indonesia. It presents itself as an ally of government security forces, although the government doesn't consider them so. In their attempts, they often use hate speech to motivate and legitimize violence, attacks on organizations and individuals considered to be sinful or religiously defiant. It has targeted Christian minorities and Ahmadi and Shiite Muslim. They usually begin the rally after finishing Friday prayer. One of their successes was to bring Ahok to the court in 2016. Ahok is the Christian governor of Jakarta. Before the presidential election in 2019, the group has positioned themselves as political and moral broker. It has succeeded in imposing itself in the public sphere, channeling political support and utilizing extensive media coverage. This organization collaborates with political elites, some sections of the army and police, several groups that are more or less criminal in nature, a number of local communities in different areas, and a variety of violent Islamist groups to push their agenda. So this is Jakarta, this is the main mosque in Jakarta, and this is the cathedral. So actually they are close to each other. So the FBI, or the Islamic Defender Front, usually have their Friday prayer here, and then from here they walk to the office of the governor. But they never come to this place. They never attack this place. Quite interesting. Yeah. Although it is only 100 meters away from the mosque. Although the participants of the conflicts in Indonesia are Muslim and Christians, a deep analysis of the conflict may show that these conflicts cannot be regarded as Muslim-Christian conflicts, because not all Muslims and of course not all Christians agree with this violence. Muslims in Indonesia are not monolithic. Moreover, some conflicts involve only Muslims, but from different groups or sects. I think it is better to refer it as a conflict between extremist radical terrorists on one hand, and religious minorities and moderate pluralist Muslims on the other hand. The expression of Islam and Christianity in Indonesia has been moderate, tolerant, and progressive. Actually, most Indonesian Muslims belong to the moderate pluralist ones. They become members of the world's largest but local Muslim organization, Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah, whose members perhaps 50 million and 40 million followers. Nahdlatul Ulama based in villages and towns, while Muhammadiyah in big cities. Nahdlatul Ulama stresses the locality of Islam, respecting and using the local culture in practicing Islam, while Muhammadiyah stresses the importance of modern and pure Islam, freed from cultural aggression, and give particular attention to influencing and educating people in the professions and in higher education. But nowadays, Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah, along with other organizations, refer to a particular kind of Islam. They call it Islam Nusantara, as distinct from more restrictive Islam in the origin culture. The concept of Islam Nusantara enforces understanding of Islam that reject an Islamic state in favor of a state founded on the recognition of Indonesia religious pluralism. The three big interreligious conflict cases lately. So, since this is not far away, on Idul Fitri, some people also pray in the parking lot of the church. So this lady. So after attack in the church, this Muslim lady, helps the Christians to clean the church. This is in Singkil, Aceh. Church demolition in Singkil, Aceh took place on October 13, 2015, when a mob under the name of Aceh Singkil Islamic Youth Movement attacked and burned down the one Indonesian Christian church building in Singkil. The attackers claimed to be unhappy because the local government administration had failed to enforce Indonesian national law applying to illegal houses of worship. In the negotiation of the local government and the demonstrator, they had agreed to close at least 13 churches in the Singkil area and require all remaining churches to adhere to the requirements for obtaining permits. But the mob felt that the government had failed to keep its promise, and so decided to take the matter into their own hands. They demolished several buildings before the police and army arrived and stopped its destructive activity. Immediately after, some 4,000 people, consisting mainly of the Batak Papak people, who are minority in that region, fled to North Sumatra borders area and became refugees. The refugees fled in response to rumors that they too were to be targeted for attack. On the following days, 9 other churches were demolished by the local government officers in accordance with the agreement made by the local government and the group. So this is in Singkil. So most of the Aceh is a special area in Indonesia which applies Sharia law. And the churchgoers in Singkil, Aceh, are people from different tribes, from Batak, so a next door tribe. The second one. After Jokowi was elected Indonesia president in 2014, Basuki Cahayapurnama, popularly known as Ahok, his vice governor, became the interim governor of Jakarta. During the transition period leading up to Ahok's official inauguration in November 2014, there was a public controversy concerning Ahok's religious identity. Despite the constitution requirements that Ahok replace Jokowi, there were groups opposing Ahok's secessions on the ground, much debated in Muslim circles, that Islamic law allegedly prohibits a non-Muslim from serving as leader of Muslims. Significantly, Ahok is a Chinese Indonesian and a Christian, both minority categories. On the other hand, like Jokowi, he is popular among people not because of his personal identity, but because he has a good record of governing. Those involved in the public controversy in this period of transition included certain Islamist proponents, the Islamic Defender Front, a hardline Islamic militia, was among them, who protested Ahok's candidacy most loudly. Many Muslim leaders believe that Indonesians should be governed by the constitution. Their acceptance of Ahok as governor at the time didn't entail their acceptance a non-Muslim leader per se. Rather, it reflected their display of fidelity to the democratic system and constitution. There's a split then. Among the Muslims, some people supported Ahok and some others didn't support him. While campaigning for election in September 2016 for his second term, Ahok remarked that the Quranic verse Al-Ma'idah 51, warning Muslims against taking Jews or Christians as allies, was being misused by some clerics to argue that Muslims must not vote for Christians. Several days later, a video of his remark that had been deceptively edited by Buniyani, a communication lecturer, went viral. The Majlis MUI, the fatwa, responded with a fatwa accusing him of blasphemy. The radical Islamic Defender, joined with other Islamic groups, formed a national movement to safeguard the Indonesian Ulama Councils. Together, they called for demonstration demanding that Ahok be tried and imprisoned. On the other hand, Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah, the biggest Islamic group in Indonesia, counseled calm and advised their members to avoid demonstrations and simply vote for those candidates. They believe and vote for the candidates they believe would contribute most to the public good. Despite this plea, some senior members of the two organizations joined in the accusation against Ahok. In the end, the moderate Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah were outflanked by the radicals. Ahok was ultimately arrested and tried for blasphemy, and on May 9, 2017, he was sentenced to 2 years in prison. The third one, this is in Surabaya. On Sunday, May 13, 2018, 3 churches in Surabaya were targeted by almost simultaneous suicide bombing, killing 13 and wounding 41 people. According to Indonesian authorities, all three bombings were carried out by one family, comprising a father, a wife, and then 4 children. And then later that day, a premature bomb explosion in a house in Sidoarjo, a town next to Surabaya, involving another family. And then the following day again, on Monday, a family of 5 rode 2 motorbikes to the entrance of Surabaya police headquarters, where they blew themselves up. 4 of the attackers were killed. The interesting thing is that these 3 families who participated in the bombings actually attended the same Islamic studies session every Sunday in Surabaya, led by Khalid Abu Bakar, an Islamic State sympathizer and supporters of ISIS. Analysis of the interreligious conflicts in Indonesia. How small intolerant radical religious groups can cause a big problem? How can these small groups influence the big ones? There must be some underlying factors that support it. Many people talk about the issue of provocation. It is true that in many instances, the conflict has been deliberately provoked, but it should be remembered that the efforts of provocations only work when it has got the kindling ready to blow up. There have been places where the provocation has been tried, but it has not worked because these other factors have not been in place. So, before I talk about the factors, I'd like to show you the real source of the interreligious conflicts in Indonesia. First one is the competition between migrants against indigenous people. So like in Sampit, so the Maduris come from Madura Island, go to Kalimantan. So actually the Maduris are Muslims, the Daya are Christians. And also in Aceh, Singkil, the migrants, Batak people are Christians, and the indigenous people, Aceh, are Muslims. The rivalry of different ethnic and religious groups due to the changing population balances. So in the past, we've got transmigration. So people are moved from Java, which is highly populated, to other areas. Java are Muslim areas, and most of the inhabitants are Muslims. And they are moved by the government to other areas which mostly Christians. So this make problems actually. The struggle of local or national elites over power. So like what happened in the election 2019. So Jokowi, a moderate one, supported by Muhammadiyah and Nahdlatul Ulama, and the other one, Prabowo, supported by Islamic Defender Front. The struggle of local and national, okay? The economic gap due to the rapid economic changes. So people believe that the rich families in Indonesia are Christians, but actually this is not true. There are a lot of rich Muslims also. But if they go to church, if they see the owners of big companies in Jakarta or in Surabaya, most of them are Chinese, and Chinese are Christians. Because of the riot in 1965, the Chinese should choose one religion, and they didn't want to become Muslims, they became Christians. That's why economic gap could be one of their factors. The communications revolution. So no conflict now is local any longer. So one small conflict in one area is spread by using the technology, and it becomes a national issue. The way conflicts are portrayed in the media, especially online media. So there is an interreligious war in our media, but actually it is not in the reality. The lack of skilled leaders in the at the national and local level. So not all leaders in Indonesia, especially on the local leaders, are very skilled in leadership. Yeah. Sometimes they are on one side. the misguided peacekeeping efforts. So many people, especially the government, believes that interreligious conflict can be solved on the table. So leaders meet each other and then they talk. They shake hands and now we live in peace. But actually, you have to go to the roots, right? And then injustice situation in Indonesia, and international interreligious conflict issue. So interreligious conflict issue in Israel and Palestine could be a source of conflict in Indonesia, or in Pakistan or in India. So like what happened with in Burma. So it's also affected the relationship between the Muslims and the Buddhists in Indonesia. The conflict actually started with a small conflict and involved a small number of people, but then become big when people are provoked. Once people interpret it as religious conflicts, the conflict develops, involves more people, and becomes more destructive. Some factors which make provocation works: prejudices and suspicions that exist among Indonesians. It cannot be denied that there are mutual prejudices and suspicions that have gradually developed between the Muslim and Christian groups. The tensions between the two groups date from the Dutch colonial period in Indonesia and persisted throughout Indonesia post-independence history. It has to be remembered that both Christianity and Islam are missionary religions. The Muslims suspect the Christians group tries unceasingly and aggressively to convert Muslims to be Christians, while the Christians feel that the government policies are designed to appease conservative Muslims and restrict the religious freedom of Indonesia. Religious freedom of Indonesian Christians, so that many Christians convert to Islam. Identity politicization. The strengthening identity politicization, especially the politicization of religion, is troubling to many people who are aware that Indonesia is a country whose population is ethnically diverse and religiously diverse, with their respective cultures and religions. Problems of native and non-native. There is a popular presumption that natives of Indonesia are Muslim while the Indonesian Chinese are Christians. This probably true in big cities in Java, where most Christians are Chinese, but it does not represent the situation in the whole Indonesia. Life frustration and anger. For low-class people, life in Indonesia is not easy. This situation leads them into life frustration and anger that they can easily move and use by destructive Muslims to do destructive activities. Most of the participants in violent religious demonstrations are paid. Interreligious collective memory. The Indonesian interreligious Muslim Christian collective memory are formed by memories, cognitive and emotional factors throughout the history of the encounter of Islam and Christianity in the world and Indonesia. So the story of the war between Christian people and the Muslims are quite famous in Indonesia. So people retell the stories to their children. They are shaped by and transmitted through narratives which is retold again and again. It finally began to become a common history, experience, and even identity. These collective memories intervene in the definition, maintenance, and mobilization of social identities, have strong impact on interreligious relations. Learning from the factors that make provocation works, I suggest both sides to meet and encounter more openly on different levels. The local civil society group should play a more important role in promoting peaceful interreligious relations in Indonesia, because they know the means that they will work well within the particular context of their own regions, cultures, and religions. The work of these local civil society groups will be more effective with the government support. Interreligious dialogue is a must, Everybody should participate and involve in inclusive interreligious dialogue with others. With this dialogue, people may understand each other, decrease their prejudice, suspicion, and fear, and finally make them good friends. Some types of dialogues that can be used are the dialogue of life, dialogue of action, dialogue of theological exchange, and dialogue of religious experience. So this is the Indonesian Consortium of Religious Studies. This is part of the effort of the Indonesian government and also universities to respond to the need of interreligious dialogue. So Indonesian Consortium on Religious Studies comprises 3 big universities, 1 state university, and then a Christian university, and then an Islamic state university. So, and this one is a grassroots, interreligious dialogue. So Father Leo was there also. And this one, more local one. So now, after the conflict of 2016, the Indonesian people become more aware that the need of interreligious dialogue. That's why some students, Islamic students, also go to church to learn about Christianity. Some students from Catholic schools go to Pesantren Islamic boarding school to learn about Islam, something like that. Thank you. Thank you.
Very, very interesting. Thank you so much. Very informative.